But Russia will never come back to the West as it was, never again. Sorry to say that, I'm not happy with that because Russia is too close to Hungary.
Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán just declared, shaking up the geopolitical chessboard yet again. But what does he mean? Is this the final nail in the coffin for East-West relations? And why is Orbán, a European leader, saying this so definitively? Orbán made this statement during an interview, emphasizing that the West has fundamentally severed ties with Russia, economically, politically, and diplomatically. He said, "Russia will never come back to the West. The West doesn't want Russia, and Russia doesn't want the West." Strong words, but why is he so certain? Orbán made this statement during an interview.
And the Ukraine, what is basically, again, the problem? The Russians accepted in a very difficult way that Central European countries like my home, Hungary, became member of NATO. They always criticized that move, saying that it's unfair because it was promised. Nobody knows exactly whether did it happen or not, but it was promised that the ex-Soviet Union dominated territories will not join NATO. But we did. Good for us anyway. And the Russians started to live with that. In that concept, Ukraine was the buffer zone between NATO and Russia. And then now, as we started to incorporate more and more Ukraine, first at the military level, developing their army, then even at the diplomatic level to speak about the possible membership of Ukraine to NATO, we converted the buffer zone into a war zone. So it's not anymore a buffer zone. That's the problem. And it's history. It's not about 1 or 2 decades issue. So how we imagine the territory between the NATO and Russia, how we call it and how to manage it, how we provide the future for the people and the territory. So these are the real big and difficult challenges ahead of us.
One big change.
When we jumped into the war, that was always my argument to the Westerners, that don't consider that war as our own war. It's not a war of the West. It's a war between 2 Slavic nations, a brutal but a brotherhood war. Russians and Ukrainians. Isolate them, have them, but don't say that this is our war. That's exactly what you have done. Basically, Biden president came to Warsaw and said, Putin must fail. Guys, it means that you are in the war. So why we have done it? Nobody knows the answer of that, So it was a very short-sighted idea. Probably they thought that they could weaken Russia. I was always sure at the very first moment that a war will make Russia stronger than it was prior to the war. That's our history. First World War, Second World War. When they start the war, they are weaker. As the war is going ahead, they are getting stronger and stronger and stronger. That's the lesson of the Hungarian history.
Here comes the major concern. Although the American people have decided, although it is a clear interest of the European people as well that peace should come back to Central Europe, but I think that the 2 months ahead of us, up to the 20th of January, are the 2 most dangerous months comparing the last couple of decades. Why? Because those who have carried out this failed pro-war strategy are not only not giving up, but they try to create a situation until the 20th of January where peacemaking will be extremely, extremely complicated. Their goal is definitely to make it impossible by the 20th of January to make peace. Look at the measures. Allowing the long-range missiles to be applied against the depth of the territories of Russia. Allowing the mines to be applied. And the High Representative of the European Union is calling for the European Union itself to allow long-range weapons provided by European countries to be used against Russian territories, while the European Union does have nothing to do with that, since the European Union does not deliver weapons, it's only member states who do so. So these are the 2 most dangerous months which are ahead of us. And I do believe that the pro-peace political leaders will now need a lot of smartness, a lot of patience, and a lot of strategic readiness for strategic thinking in order to prevent a situation on the 20th of January where it will be impossible to make peace.
So unity does not mean that me as a Hungarian Prime Minister should shut up always, you know? It's not written anywhere. So I am here to represent the national interest of Hungary. And on that basis, I would like to make deals, agreements, compromises, whatever, with the other country leaders who represent their own national interest. So I don't represent the globalist elite here, or the European bureaucrats, or somebody who is just, you know, swimming on the sky. No, it's not my job. I'm standing firmly on the basis of the national interest. And I would like to make deal, compromise, agreements with the others who represent also their national interest, because Hungary first. You are from Germany. I suppose for you, Germany is the first. That's right. So let's sit down and understand what is good for the Germans, what is for the Hungarians. You are big, we are smaller. Let's make a deal how to cooperate. That's European politics. Not to say that you should follow the unity, shut up. That's what you are saying. It's impossible. It's impossible. So that's the difference, probably.
Strong words, but why is he so certain? Orbán argues that the West's actions, like sanctions, military aid to Ukraine, and diplomatic isolation, have pushed Russia into a new era of alignment with the East, particularly China. But is he right? And what does this mean for Europe? To understand Orbán's perspective, we need to look at a few key points. 1. The Ukraine war. The war in Ukraine has deepened the rift between Russia and the West. NATO expansion, sanctions, and military aid have made reconciliation nearly impossible in the short term. 2. Economic divorce. Europe has drastically reduced its reliance on Russian energy. New trade routes, LNG imports, and sanctions have cut off major financial ties. Meanwhile, Russia is pivoting to China, India, and other non-Western economies. 3. Orbán's own politics. Let's not forget that Orbán has been one of the most pro-Russian voices in Europe. He has criticized EU sanctions and maintains energy deals with Moscow. But is he just stating the obvious, or is he pushing an agenda? Orbán's statement suggests that the divide is permanent, but history tells us otherwise. Think about the Cold War. The USSR and the West were bitter rivals for decades. Yet the fall of the Soviet Union led to a period of cooperation in the 1990s and early 2000s. Could something similar happen in the future? Experts argue that geopolitics is fluid. Regimes change, conflicts end, and economic needs shift. But for now, Orbán's statement reflects a brutal truth. Relations are at their lowest point since the Cold War. If Orbán is right, we could see a long-term geopolitical shift where Russia deepens ties with China, Europe moves further away from Russian energy and trade. The global order continues to fracture into competing blocs. The big question, will this lead to a new Cold War or something even worse? Orbán's words might sound extreme, but they reflect a reality we can't ignore. The West and Russia are in a geopolitical standoff with no clear end in sight. So what do you think? Is Orbán right? Has Russia permanently left the West, or is there still a chance for reconciliation? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more deep dives into global politics. Until next time, stay informed and stay curious.